When a strange new mystery foe tries to knock Tony Stark off his pedestal, he won't know who he can trust. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Invincible Iron Man issue number 2 and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, picking up from where the last issue left off, Tony had been drugged during his last AA meeting. This caused him to stumble out in the street and eventually crash land into a bunch of garbage. Naturally, all the nosy people with their camera phones around assumed that this could only mean that Tony Stark has fallen off the wagon and started drinking again. Luckily for Tony, he ends up getting scooped up by Riri Williams Ironheart. She only knew Tony was in trouble because he is sadly burning up TikTok right now, which, hey, you know, Tony might be a brilliant futurist scientist, but even he doesn't fully understand how the TikTok algorithm works, and you know what? Mad relatable. Riri goes to drop Tony off at his brand new base of operations in New Jersey, and it's here that Tony actually tries to relitigate something from the last Iron Man run, mainly the fate of the Mandarin's famous 10 rings. Riri had been watching over the rings. She says that they're in a safe place and Tony doesn't have to worry, but unfortunately all Iron Man can really do is worry right now as some mystery foe is coming at him from every angle. Admittedly though, the shit doesn't really hit the fan until the next day when all of the footage of Iron Man slumped in the gutter ends up making the rounds on the international news circuit. Riri wonders why Tony doesn't get out in front of this and try and defend himself, but Iron Man thinks, why should he have to defend himself? He knows the truth, right? He knows he's not drinking again. And surely all of his closest friends and allies will stand by him, right? That's not exactly what happens. Even though Tony divested from Stark Enterprises a while ago, and even though his friend Andy is running it, this news is enough to really do a lot of damage to the stock. It's getting so bad, Stark's new CEO basically has to have an entire press conference just to reassure people that Tony doesn't actually run the company anymore, and that they don't have to worry about him drunkenly blowing up their money the same way he blew up his lab at the beginning of the last issue. This press conference actually ends up coming under attack by old-timey Iron Man villain the Living Laser. He's come here to pick a fight with Tony, but not for the reason you might expect. Living Laser says that he was kidnapped by Iron Man and experimented on for weeks before only just now escaping. Obviously this isn't true when Iron Man and Ironheart spring into action, so Tony can try and clear his name with this guy. Living Laser takes the fight to the old Avengers mansion so that he can personally deface the statue of Iron Man. What I love about this battle is that Tony says, hey Riri, you better be careful around Living Laser, only for Ironheart to go, really? Why? His name is Living Laser. That's not a name that conjures a lot of fear. Though realistically, not taking him seriously is probably what allowed Laser to get the jump on both Iron folks at the very same time. Only, here's the thing though, Riri actually recovers from what would otherwise be a very deadly hit thanks to the abilities given to her by the 10 rings. Yes, that's right, she always had them on her person. Tony is obviously a little upset about getting lied to by someone who he thought was his friend, but Riri actually proves that she can use the 10 rings power in rather new and interesting ways, like going inside Living Laser's mind and getting to see his story from his point of view. Turns out he actually wasn't lying. Someone who looked like Tony Stark did indeed show up at his apartment, tase him, and then drag him away to be experimented on. And once he realizes that it was a fake who did that and not the real Tony, Laser even basically leaves peacefully, which surprises everyone. Back in Jersey, Tony and Riri put their heads together to try and figure out what exactly is going on here. As far as Iron Man concerns, this isn't a supervillain problem, this is a good old-fashioned case of corporate espionage. Someone is going out of their way to try and make Tony look sloppy, unreasonable, and dangerous in an attempt to try and seize control of Stark Industries. In fact, if you're a fan of the HBO drama Succession, you'll know that this is a poison pill strategy, wherein you basically make it look like everything is falling apart so it drives down the cost of shares so someone can swoop on in and buy them up. Tony's not a dumb guy, he actually figured that something like this might happen at some point, and because of that, he dumped a bunch of stock with one of his old childhood friends. A character who we've never actually met before, but who apparently came up in the corporate world with Tony, but always wasn't afraid to tell him when he was being a jerk. and who ultimately went their separate ways from Tony and from Stark Industries, and he's dead. Well, that's gonna certainly make the next part of the story complicated as this one comes to an end. And so that was Invincible Iron Man issue number 2, everybody, and I gotta say, Jerry Duggan really managed to do it again. Everything I loved about the first issue was no fluke, and it actually looks like we're in for one hell of an interesting arc. One that 2 issues in, I can say, does a great job of actually riding the line between feeling familiar and quintessentially Iron Man, but also feeling kind of fresh and exciting, while also honoring the Cantwell stuff that came before. I think Jerry Duggan really is one of those Marvel creators who doesn't get enough credit for being so consistently solid and workman through all of his different titles. But it's titles like this that remind me, oh yeah, he kicks frickin' ass, and you should most definitely read what he writes. Overall, I'd feel comfortable giving this one another solid 8 out of 10. I think if things continue in this fashion, we'll actually have 2 really great Iron Man runs back to back.
Hey there everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.